introduce my two fabulous guests, Amelia. She is an IMSA licensed driver who has competed in more than 200 SCCA races and works as a driving instructor. She is also a senior at the University of Florida and has quite the following on social media. Also here with me is Saber Cook. She is a mechanical engineer with extensive racing background. She is currently competing in the Carrera Porsche Cup North America. She's a Hagerty ambassador, and she advocates for women in racing in STEM. So thank you both for being here. First of all, let's just keep it real simple. How did you both get introduced to motorsports?
Saber, would you like to start?
I guess I'll start because I'm a little older than you. I got my start before you. Okay, so I had a very cool dad. Like, I'm so lucky. He was a professional motocross and supercross racer. Didn't want us doing two wheels. I appreciate that now. I'm much less broken body as a human, so I appreciate it. We got into go-karts when I was younger, and then eventually just progressed up into the car world once I had a sponsor who put me in a car back in 2017. So that's how I got my start.
That's great. I think I started very similar to you. For me, it was a little bit different. I didn't start racing until I was about 15. I ended up getting my driver's license before my racing license. And for me, it was always about spending time with my dad. I never really had anything in common with him, but I wanted to spend time with him. So racing for me really started off because he was racing and I wanted to spend time with my dad. So he put me in a race car and taught me how to drive manual, and I fell in love and got my racing license with SCCA.
That's awesome. I thought it was interesting when we all started talking that you and I both have engineering degrees and you're a senior in college. Most race car drivers don't have college degrees, let's just be honest. Mia, or I'll ask you both, why do you think it seems important as a woman to have that, whether we feel like it's validation or credibility?
I mean, for me, racing was not just my only thing. I did want to get into something else, and I think that with getting into school for me, it really actually elevated me as a driver. My math background really gave me that critical thinking skills that you need in order to approach data analysis and even just going into like your racecraft and figuring out the best way to do things. I think the journalism side for me really kind of elevated my off-track presence. And so for me, I always looked at my education as something that really elevated my racing experience. I'm sure it's the same for both of you with the engineering degrees. It teaches you how to think and it teaches you how to problem solve.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments, absolutely. I think the engineering sets us apart as drivers, not only as female drivers, but it gives a different perspective. And like you said, it is problem solving. Once you learn how to problem solve, I feel like my strength as a driver is my racecraft. So that is just on the fly problem solving. And I do feel like when you come to a situation and you say, yes, I have my engineering degree, or I'm in applied mathematics, I wish this wasn't the case, guys. I love that you guys are here supporting women in motorsports. I wish this wasn't true. But usually when you show up as a woman to a team, you don't start at zero. You start in the negative. They tend to maybe not think you're as competent as your male counterparts. So when you show up and you also have a STEM background, I feel like it helps them think, oh, she's calm, collected, analytical, she's got a good head on her shoulders, and it does help, I feel like, in the, unfortunately, predetermined judgments that we often experience.
I couldn't agree more. Saber, you made history in the W Series. You were the first woman to podium Porsche events. What are some of the barriers that you've had to overcome? I know you mentioned you start in the negative, but there's certainly more barriers than that.
Yes, I mean, everybody experiences challenges in their sport, regardless of gender. And the biggest one in motorsports is funding and resources, whether you're a man or a woman. Unfortunately, racing is expensive and it's not as accessible. So I would say that's been a big barrier for me, balancing school and racing when I was in school. And yeah, sometimes being taken seriously, but I think I'm sure you've experienced, Aaron. Once you're in the space and establish yourself as I'm here because I want to perform and I love the sport and I'm focused on doing my best, then you usually don't run into as many questioning judgments from others.
Certainly. And me, it's kind of the same question. You've been participating in events like SVRA Speed Tour, the Pro Spec and the I-Series. What challenges have you faced as a female, specifically in those arenas?
Absolutely. For me, I was the youngest driver out there when I first got started. I didn't even have my driver's license. So for me, it was always a little bit more in my head than anything else. I mean, when you're the youngest person out there in a field of mostly like dignified grown men, it's intimidating. And on top of that, I think like being the one person who looks a little bit different, it can be quite cumbersome. I think it really changed for me when I was able to realize like it doesn't even matter. At some point, you have to all just realize you're just drivers. You all have the same radio license, and at the end of the day, really, you're all advocating for yourself the same way. It developed me in a way where I probably wouldn't even have gotten the skills until I was later in life. So I think being able to learn that at like such a young age and being able to advocate for yourself and learn how to stand on your ground and just say, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, and you know what? I might beat you too.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask you both to, has there been a moment in your career, and like, I want to make it kind of funny, like I have stories of specific men telling me I shouldn't, like, don't go wrong, shouldn't be in that race car, or one time a little boy, I'll tell a quick story. I was at a racetrack, I was like 19 years old, all men, in a sprint car, and I finished second. And after the race, this little boy came up to me and gave me an autograph. And he looked me up and down and he said, huh, you finished second? And I said, yeah. He said, not bad for a girl. So, for you, have there been any funny, some of them aren't funny, but have there been any moments where you've been like, did you just really say that?
Well, the amount of times I get that, you don't look like a race car driver. It's like, thank you. I don't know what a race car driver is supposed to look like. They are.
I don't think I want to. You look like a serious.
But I would say one that stands out. I became the first female to qualify for KZ World Championships in Italy back in 2014. And when I went to go to the driver's meeting, I'm walking in and I go to walk through the door and they stop me and they're like, drivers only. Like they wouldn't let me go in the door and I had to go get my racing license to be like, no, this is my meeting, I need to be here. So that was probably one that stood out for me. I eventually got in the meeting and everything was fine.
For me, I think the most memorable one was I was going into registration and the man who works for registration, who has registered me several times, looks at me up and down and he said, oh, they let women race cars now? And I looked at him and I said, yeah, they also let us vote now.
That's awesome. Mia, you have become an influencer. You have over 117,000 followers on Instagram. How important, I'm going to ask both of you, but you first, how important social media is now with sponsorship and just really media in general?
Absolutely. I think a lot of drivers like try to put themselves in this one role. And when you look at media, you see like the James Hunt stereotype of race car drivers, and they're all trying to fit into it. For me, my like Instagram and coupling it with my racing allowed me to showcase what made me different, and it allowed me to showcase kind of like what my assets were. Obviously, on a sponsorship side, you want to have a great profile because it gives more reach. A lot of the series don't have television like how some of the other ones do. But for me, it gave me a voice and allowed me to share my message. And it honestly, like my racing and my platform gave me a platform to just be myself and share it with people. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. I think it's incredibly important nowadays. I mean, for anyone getting in started, I think it's really just about like figuring out what makes you different and being able to showcase it and just wear it with pride, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Saber, I'd like to hear your thoughts on social media because I know we've talked, and you don't necessarily love marketing and putting yourself out there, but it's such an important part now. And sponsors ask for that; they ask for a number of hits per month. Just talk about how. I mean, I stopped racing about 15 years ago, which ages me, but I didn't have to deal with any of the social media.
Guys, I'm an introvert naturally, so social media for me, I'm not as like naturally, and I feel like as outgoing as Mia is, and leaning into the female side and the feminine side. I've had to work on that, but I do notice with my social media, it's incredibly powerful the impact that you can have, the people that you can reach globally. It's amazing the people that will just come up, even at the show yesterday, who's like, my daughters follow you, thank you so much, we're so inspired by what you're doing. And then those are the moments where I'm reminded on how amazing a tool social media can be. I know there's a lot of challenges that do come with it, but it's also a way for me to provide value for my partners, longtime partner Hagerty, and being able to share my story just brings more people to those brands and inspires them to get involved in the space as well. So I think it's an incredibly powerful tool if used in the right ways.
Yes, for sure. And I want to take that a step further. You mentioned the feminine side. And one thing that I feel like, even in my career, I was at the time when Danielle Patrick was coming up. And she did this very sexy photo shoot with FHM magazine, and she blew up. I, for one, certainly at that time in my life was not comfortable whatsoever doing something like that. But it is something we have to deal with. Just in Daytona, I don't know how many of you follow NASCAR, but it was a big controversy because a female driver kind of took it a little bit risky. I just would love to get your thoughts on it because it is a hot topic and it's sometimes uncomfortable.
I think as a driver, you have to decide, and in any business, any brand, you decide what your values are and what you want to represent. So for me, I got very clear, these are my top values, this is what I want to represent. If it's different for another individual, good for them. I'm going to let them do their thing. They can go represent brands that align with those missions. For myself, like that's maybe not the way that I would go, but you know, they made it work and they've used it to have a career. So I can't, deter anybody from chasing their dreams with the means that they want to use.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think for me, it's really about who you are and what you want to showcase. For a lot of people, if that's what makes you feel confident and that's how you feel like that's your truest self, go ahead and go after it. I'm never going to shame somebody about doing what makes them happy and what fulfills them. For me, I think being feminine in a lot of ways was almost like a reaction to a little bit of the pressure I face. On the track, if you wear makeup, it's like, oh my gosh, she's wearing makeup. That's like, oh, so risque. But I don't know, I think it's kind of fun. I started driving and I made a series where I'm like driving manual on heels and rating different heels based off of how well they can drive. And honestly, it was kind of a reaction because I do drive manual on heels. I'm happy about it. And
I'm impressed because I just take them off.
I'm certainly not coordinating that. Have there been any mishaps where you've slid off the pedal?
Oh, absolutely. There's lots of cuts within the video industry, lots of...
You should do a blooper reel then.
I should, because I roll my ankles more than I'm allowed to say.
I heard you had a blooper the other day. You're making a video on the hill. Your heels.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to be glamorous, and it's hard being glamorous all the time. That's what I say when you're not very glamorous. And I was walking up the hill, and I had these like super high stilettos, and they always punch little holes in the hill. And I was walking, and I'm looking at Nicole, my best friend, who's filming me right now, and I kind of give her a glaze, and I didn't look where I was stepping, and my foot got stuck in the hill, and I tumbled completely.
Sorry, I had to do that.
No, it's okay.
All right, getting back a little more serious. Saber, what are things that you would love to see in the industry, maybe over the next decade, to help women? If you can pick 3 things that maybe the industry, media drivers, teams that you would love to see move the needle?
That's a really great question. And I feel like I get it a lot because everyone's like, how do we improve? How do we help achieve this critical mass for women in motorsports? Because until we receive about 25%, we're considered a minority and it's hard for us to challenge traditional ways. So to get there, I would say probably the biggest things, unfortunately, is funding. You just have to be able to have the resources from the same time the guys get them, have the same amount of seat time, because unfortunately if you don't practice as much, no matter how good you are, you're really not going to be able to perform. It'd be like LeBron James never practices and then he don't do that. It doesn't happen. So that's an unfortunate reality where we need more companies, more women in power, more women with wealth investing in women in motorsports to get them the same opportunities. And I've been really fortunate to be a part of a lot of diversity programs, a lot of scholarships. Those help, but ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't help a career move forward. You still need those funding dollars. And what goes alongside that, though, is something that Dario actually shared the other night when he was talking about his story, is he mentioned how Jackie Stewart became a mentor of his and helped him collect Scottish sponsors to be able to continue to move up. There's not a lot of women in the sport, so I don't really have a Jackie Stewart in my pocket that I could have, helped me get there. Thankfully, I've really been fortunate to have a good relationship with Lindsay James, but she's only one, right? Like, there's not that many matriarchs, I would say, who have been able to help all of the new women that want to come into the space. So, since Lynn can't help everyone as much as she would like to, we need more advocates that aren't just women, that are men, to step in as drivers and say, hey, I'm going to mentor this young driver and help them get up, because most of the time when we're young, we have no idea what we're doing and we're just trying to figure it out. So having people in those spaces, and I had a great conversation with Randy Hopes the other day, and he was telling me about how he's so passionate right now because he's helping a young woman right now try to move up the ranks. So it's like, I want to hear more stories like that, and there's already been some amazing advocates for myself. Like, most of the time, the way I've gotten where I have is by having incredibly kind, thoughtful, amazing male advocates that have mentored me and gave me the opportunities. So we just need to continue more of that.
Yes, and you mentioned Lynn, she was also a mentor of mine. I think I went to her driving school when I was 18 years old. And she has now started a thing called Women in Motorsports North America, and she's trying to build that. She's trying to build a mentorship, not just for drivers, for media, for engineers, for pit crew members. So I feel like it's in the works, but it's still in its infancy. Mia, I want to ask you a similar question, but I feel in my career, being a woman sometimes opened doors. It was the beginning of diversity programs. I get opportunities, but I felt like once I was in the door, that's when the challenges started. It was to prove to the crew guys that I was a legitimate driver. It was to prove the sponsors I wasn't just this wasn't just like a highlight thing. Have you had to face that, and what are some of the challenges once you get in the door and are on a team?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the challenges just start from perception. When you look in the media, you don't see very many women in racing presented in the media as having already made it. All of the media that we consume now, watching women in racing, is the F1 Academy stories where it's, they're struggling, they're trying to make it up. And the men presenting in media are glitzy, they're living their life, they're popping the champagne in Monaco. And it's funny because that's what shapes how we see it, even inside the industry. So I think, honestly, for me, I started receiving the most respect when my results were undeniably good. When it was okay, she just made 17 passes in one pass. I went on the inside one time in turn 1 at Sebring and I passed 17 cars. I literally jumped 17 spots. But stuff like that, when you have results that are undeniably like exceptional, that's when you really start receiving the like praise that you know other drivers might receive. I think I've been fortunate enough where all of my team members have always supported me, especially like my engineers and everyone. So I've never really had it from the inside. Obviously, like there's always the breaking the barriers, but it's never been anything where it's like I've personally had it like coming behind me. My people have always been very like exceptionally supportive, and I'm very grateful for the mentors that have supported me so far.
That's amazing. You know, I think it's interesting, go-karts, I don't know the exact statistics now, but even when I was young, racing quarter midgets, there were over 50% were girls. It was almost equal, girls and boys. And it was a family event. The whole family went to the track on the weekend and the whole family raced. But by the time you got to like 13, 14, and certainly time you needed to progress at a course, that's when the girls dropped off. Sabra, ask me first, what advice would you give those girls that get to that age where maybe it's not so girly to race, or maybe they're starting to deal with the things that we've had to? What advice would you give them?
I would say get the right team around you. That was a big lesson for me, is having the right people in your corner and building your brand early on, finding someone that's already done it, and then not making it complicated, like keep it simple. That's really important, but not being afraid to go for it, and not feeling like you have to be invited to be there, and just knowing, hey, these guys show up and they just want to make it happen, so why can't I? I think that's important for the mindset to have. But ultimately, it's having the right people in your corner and finding sponsors that are going to put you there. At that age, like I know we see a lot of girls drop out, but there's also a lot of guys that drop out in that age because it is so expensive to make the jump to cars that there's just less women that are currently starting and getting to that point. So that's why I feel like it seems like that's a big drop-off point, but it's just it's a numbers game right now, and we've got to increase the amount that start.
That's very true, Sabra. I think when we look at like women in motorsport as a whole, you're looking at such a small number in proportionate to men, so that it might seem like there's like, oh, all the girls are dropping out, but there's not, the group of all of the girls isn't that big, you know? I think the number one piece of advice I would give to a young female driver starting is like, find what makes you exceptional, find what drives you. You know, they say the earth rotates at like 17,000 RPM or something crazy like that. And there's few of us that wake up every single day and still like crave more. So if you have that inside of you, like that's what's driving you, showcase it, be proud of it. Find what makes you different, be able to showcase it, be able to wear it with pride, and honestly, just be proud about it. Like, that's what it's all about. And I think a lot of young female drivers look at what all the boys are doing, and I mean, that's what I used to do. I used to look at all my boys, like the boys I would race with, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not doing it like them. I'm not like them. I look different. My race suit doesn't like look like that. And I realized, that's lame. Like, why am I comparing myself to them? They're just other drivers in the field, and I'm not them. I'll never be them, no matter how hard I try. I think if you're able to wear yourself with pride, and you know what, like, just take the pressure and wear it as a privilege. Like, I think that would be the best thing, because that's when you're really going to start coming into yourself and wearing yourself and not being sorry about it.
Yeah, I think that's all wonderful advice. On a personal level, I would love to hear where you want to be with your careers in, say, 5 years.
Well, I hope I'm doing the 24 hours at Daytona next year. But I'm in, like I said, Porsche Cup this year, progressing hopefully full-time into the IMSA WeatherTech Series in the next year. And then I would love to be able to eventually do Milan, do a couple of luck races. I would love to go back to the Nürburgring, but this time do the 24-hour because I've only done the 8-hour before. So I'd love to do that, but long term, I would love to be the advocate that I spoke about earlier, where I'm realizing, hey, there's a need here. How do I make a lot of money and make a lot of connections and be able to just pay for all these women to go racing? So it's going to take some time because I'm still trying to fund my own career. But in the long term, that's what I want to be able to do, is basically be that person that I wish I had to make a career possible.
How about you?
For me, honestly, like when I first got started in racing, Sabra was already doing things, and I was looking at her saying, oh my God, she's so cool, I want to be like her. So obviously, like, I'm a little bit younger than you. I'm still learning, I'm still progressing. I have all my licensing, I have my FILA, I have my IMSA license. I want to move forward, and I want to get to the part that Sabra's in her life right now. Like when I'm Sabra's age, I want to move into IMSA. Obviously, I love Michelin Pilot Challenge. I would love to do some Porsche Carrera Cup stuff as well. For me, my heart's always been in vintage racing, so I would love to, you know, drive a car in the Goodwood members meeting, like, or go to the Festival of Speed and just, you know, really embrace what it was like at the time, because women weren't a part of it in that time. So I think being able to be involved in a vintage series and also in the stuff that's super modern right now is a very pure form of not only enjoying vehicles, but enjoying the sport in a rebellious way that has never been experienced before.
That's awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck, both of you. You'll obviously be following along on social media. I think right now we're going to open it up to a little Q&A. We've got time for 4 or 5 questions, I believe. Any questions? Anyone?
I have a question for Aaron.
Oh, okay.
What's your advice? Because you've been in our position, I feel like you have a really good reflection now about how you do it different.
I feel like both of you are doing it. I always felt like when I talked to younger kids, younger girls, it was about having thick skin, and if you really want it, like the fun to me was always kind of crushing the male ego. Like there was nothing better than passing them and winning races and being like, oh, you thought I didn't belong? Here, I'll show you. So, I mean, I think that doesn't change. And I do feel like since I was racing, the needle's moved a little bit, but there's certainly room for a lot more improvement. But yeah, I mean, I think like you both said, you have to be authentic and you have to want it, just like anything in life.
Thank you so much for all of this. It's amazing to listen to all your advice and stuff. Do you guys have any advice for a female going into the other side of motorsports, like behind the scenes, mechanical engineering, like data analysis? Do you have any advice for someone who wants to do that?
You want to go first?
Go ahead.
I would say it's almost the same as driving. You've got to build your network as much as you think it would be easy if you were just the smartest person ever, you'd automatically get the job, but that's not always the case. So going to races, building those connections with teams at the track, volunteering, I think that's really important, is to get a lot of hands-on experience. You don't sound like you're from America, but in America we don't do enough hands-on things in school before we get our degrees. So that's why the Europeans and others tend to have an edge over us once they go into industry. But that's a critical component, and whatever you can, just be in the industry and get that experience.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to Sabra, I think it's all about the circles you build, you know? If the people around you, if you can't like showcase what you're doing to them and say, I'm doing this, I'm so excited to do it, if you're not comfortable sharing it with them, you're not in the right circles. I think when it comes to networking, when you're meeting new people, it's just building the relationships. When I meet somebody, I had a mentor show me how to network. I get their name, I remember one fact about them, and then about 24 hours later, I'll just, hey, I'm Mia LaRue, it was so great to meet you, I remember talking about this, and just build the relationship. If you want to ask from somebody, don't do the ask right away. Form a relationship with that person, really get to know them to make sure that's someone you want to work with, and then once you know for sure, I want to work with this person, I want to be a part of this, then follow through and, you know, ask for it, and don't be ashamed to ask. You're never going to get it if you don't ask.
Internships with teams.
How to get them?
Internships to get in the door.
Yeah.
There's a lot of websites that I'm on the subscriber list, and I feel like I get like 3 emails and things like vacancies here. So it's motorsportjobs.com, Glassdoor, I think racingjobs.com. All of those have a lot of listings, but ultimately it's kind of what I said before, is going to the track and meeting them face to face and being really aggressive with. Careful with the resume in print, because usually that ends up in the trash can. Sad. I would definitely get their contact info, and then, like Mia said, follow up with them and make sure it's with some sort of personal element so they'll respond to you.
Absolutely. I'd say LinkedIn as well. I mean, LinkedIn has so many great people, and you can directly message them. I mean, I connect with people I don't even know on LinkedIn, and I just try to make friends with everyone because that's how the relationship starts to build, and you'll see the job postings as well.
Well, thank you all. I think we're running a little short on time, but I'm sure we'll be hanging around for a little bit if you all have more questions for us. But thank you, Mia. Thank you, Sarah. We wish you the best of luck in careers. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you got a little insight. And now you guys can help promote women in motorsports for us. Thank you.
Good job. Very good job. It did go by fast.
I think so too, and I think I got dripped on during.
Did you?
Thank you very much.
How'd it go? Good?
Job was great. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was fantastic. You guys did
We
wonderful.
met Save Bruh.